right. Welcome back, everyone. And we are ready to start our next presentation. So right now we have Triston Hansford with the UGA Center for Invasive Species and Ecosystem Health, and he will be showing us how to use the EDDMapS app. So welcome, Triston.
All right. So we're going to start with, I'm going to share my phone screen here since that's where the app is located. Okay, so my name is Triston Hansford. I also work with Rebecca and Chuck, and we're going to start with just a basic tour of the EDDMapS app. And then we'll go through some of the ways that you can actually use the app, right? So to start with, when you first download the EDDMapS app, I'm hoping most of you are familiar with this at least a little bit already. So hopefully this will just be a little bit of a review for you. When you first download the EDDMapS app, when you open it up, it's going to prompt you to log in. And when you do that, you should wind up looking at the home screen here. Now, another little disclaimer, it is going to look just a little bit different depending on whether or not you downloaded the app from the iOS App Store or the Google Play App Store. So it's going to look a little different if you've got an iPhone versus an Android. But overall, it's going to be more or less the same. So hopefully this shouldn't be all that confusing. So when you log in, you're going to start off with the home page, which is this page here. And so this is where you would start a report for a species. And it is also where you've got a little bit of a field guide, right? If you were to click on the plants, these are a list of the plants that are currently reportable in EDDMapS for whichever project that you fall under. So here in Georgia, where we fall under the Southeastern Early Detection Network. So any species that is reportable for pretty much most of the Southeast is going to be reportable for me on EDDMapS. So if you are located in Alaska or California, somewhere out west, or even parts of Canada, right, your species lists are going to be a little different because that's a different project that you're falling under. So through this little field guide that we've got, you can click on some of the different species and see a few different representative pictures that are available. So these can help with going over the identification of or teaching folks what they look like, where to find them, stuff like that. And you can click on the details page below it. And most of these species that are in here are going to have a description. Most of the time it's going to be identification characteristics. Sometimes it's going to include the ecological threat at the bottom or the damage that it might cause. Just another cool aspect of the app. And then once if you have a set of species that you see all the time or are reporting all the time, you can actually go into that little field guide section and tap on the star that should be in the upper right-hand corner of your screen right there. I just activated it. So, all right, I guess it wants me to log back in, but that is where you can add that species to your favorites, right? So once we close back out of that, go over to the home page again, and it will be under my species list if it successfully adds, but it's just been a minute since I've logged in and it wants me to do it again. So a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and do that really quick. Cool, I've logged in again. Again, this is the home page. This is where you'll be able to report species from, and this is also where you've got that little bit of a field guide. But if you click on the 3 bars in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, it's going to open up the menu, right? And that top button is the home, which is where we just were. The My Species list is below it. So that's where those species that are going to show up if you've favorited them. But this is also where you can change your state of provenance. So if I were to leave Georgia and go to Florida, right, and I want to start reporting some species in Florida while I'm there, I would go in and change my current state or province that I'm in to Florida, and then those species will start to fall under the project that Florida is a part of if it's different than the one that I'm currently in. So it's going to change the species that are reportable for you in EDDMapS. But you should really only have to do that if you go to a different state. It should default to where you are currently at if you log in for the first time or start your account there, or it might even ask you for it. I can't quite remember, but it's really simple to change it. And so the EDDMapS login is directly under the change your state of provenance. So this is where you would come in and create an account if you don't have one already, or you would log in if you already do have one. and so on and so forth there. And then underneath that, we have the settings. So this is where you can update your species list. So if you haven't updated your species list in a while, it should update automatically with everything else that we've added to those projects as reportable for you. But if something's not showing up that you were trying to report, you can refresh that species list and see if it shows up. And if not, you can reach out to any one of us and we'll get it added so that it's reportable for you. It does happen that people try to report a species that is relatively new to the area or just wasn't really on the radar, and it's not reportable in EDDMapS for whatever reason. So reach out to us. We'll make sure that it's reportable for you. We'll get that squared away. You can also update your area units, right? So this is going to correlate directly with the reporting page. So if you're used to your measurements and units being in standard versus metric, you can change that there. You can also add that if you are using the app to report in the field and taking pictures of those species directly through the EDDMapS app, you can make sure that those images save to your camera roll there as well. And then you can select auto upload, and we'll get into sort of the importance of that as well in just a second. And there's also the reminders for the queued reports, and I'll get into what that is in just a minute too. And then beneath that is the project that whatever state you're in pulls from. And so you can manually refresh those species there as well. All right. So the rest of this is a feedback button below the settings page. So if you run into an issue with the EDDMapS app, feel free to fill this out and send it to us, and we'll look at it and go from there. This is a pretty good place to put things like, the app's not working when I do this for whatever reason, or if there's a species you wanted to report, but it's not reportable, you can put that information in there. And then below that is just the about. So this is about EDDMapS, basically what the app is, where it came from, what we're hoping to have it do. And there's also a little bit of information on how the app works and where the data goes and stuff like that. So feel free to check that out. All right, but going back to the home. So this is the basic functionality of this app, which is what we wanted it to do, which was allow people to submit reports that go into the EDDMapS database. So it's pretty simple. So you click on the report new sighting button there. And to start off with, it's going to ask you to pick a species, right? For our purposes, we're just going to pick one, alligator weed, to show how this works. I'm not actually going to submit this report, but you can add multiple species here too. If you are putting in a polygon or just a county level, you can just say, I found multiple species right here. And so just to show how that works, we'll put in anchored water hyacinth as well, right? And to add an image, you click on the camera icon there, and you can either take a photo directly from the app here, which is what I was talking about earlier. If you have that bar turned on, that will save these images to your phone. It'll save it to your phone here as well, or you can select it from the library. Since I'm not in the field about to take pictures of anything, we're just going to pick a random one. And for our purposes, we're going to choose this fishing lure here that I was trying to identify. And then below that, you can add as many pictures as you'd like. The more pictures, usually the better for our verifiers, especially if it's something that we don't see a whole lot of. So take advantage of that if you can. And below that, this is where the GPS coordinates come into play. This is where you are reporting that species to. Now, if you mark private, it's only going to appear as a county record. So if you're reporting on private land or your own land and you don't want that point to be visible to everybody, you can mark it private. From there, if the coordinates for this report are wrong. So usually when that happens is I took a picture of a plant yesterday and I identified it today as something invasive and I want to report it, but I'm no longer right in front of that plant. I can upload this picture to the EDDMapS app right here, select the species that it is, and then I can click on that map icon right there below GPS location. So that's going to show me right where I am, and that's our office here. But if I wanted to move it to where I actually saw that species, I just scroll over to where it was, tap the screen where I want that point to be, and it redrops that point to wherever I tell it to. But also, if I wanted to draw a polygon, all you've got to do is tap the corners of where you want to draw that polygon, and it should complete itself once you've got at least 3 different points there. And once it's done, you just tap the done button, and there it is. My report now has a polygon associated with it. So down to report status, there's positive, treated, and negative. So positive means I saw this plant. I did not do anything to remove this plant. It is still there to the best of my knowledge. Treated means I saw this plant and I did something to remove or control this plant. I treated it with herbicide. I manually pulled it up, something like that. Negative means I looked for this plant and I could not find it in this spot. So that's what those different report statuses generally mean. And the time spent in minutes is usually something more associated with an actual survey. So I went to this half-acre plot and I looked around for 5 minutes and I did not see any Chinese privet anywhere. That is when I would mark it as negative. That just adds some muscle behind your report, right? And so if I mark it as positive, I can then put in the area that I surveyed, and then the density there is approximately how much area within that survey area is taken up by that invasive species or by those invasive species. So the polygon that I drew a few minutes ago is about 6.5 acres. If I said 25 to 50% of that was covered in Chinese privet, that's a whole lot of privet. Over 50% usually means that stand is just about nothing but that invasive species with a few pockets of something else, right? And then in the notes section in the bottom, this is where you can add any other relevant information for the verifiers to look at that's associated with that report. So if you marked it treated, you could go in and say, I manually removed this specimen, or I treated it with this certain herbicide, so on and so forth. And all of that gets added to the report. So once it's done, you've added all the information that you wanted to this report. You can also change the date and the time associated with this report up at the top as well. So if I took this picture of this plant yesterday, I could change that date to yesterday. But once you've entered all the information that you would like to enter with this report, you would click Save. Most of the time, if you're in the field and are getting ready to report a number of different things, it's easier to save it to the queue rather than to go ahead and upload it. But if I have just found this one species, that's all I'm really doing, I've got good cell service or I've got Wi-Fi, right? You can go ahead and click upload. But for our purposes, I'm going to show you what the save to queue does. Okay, so I've saved that one report to my queue. And what it's going to do now is it's going to sit there until I get to a point where I'm ready to upload it. So we've done that to assist with folks that are out in the field doing a lot of work where maybe you don't have great cell signal, but you do want to take numerous different reports while you're out there and report them once you get back to a point where it's easier to do that. So if I were to create 5 different reports, save them all to my queue, they're just going to be sitting there waiting for me. And I come back and I tap on the upload queue. What you can do is you can then open up each report, look at it one more time, change anything if you wanted to. Or you can tap those 3 bars in the upper right-hand corner, upload all, right? So if you just wanted to send all of the reports that you've got in your queue at once, you can click that upload all. If you want to click select for upload, so if you only want to upload a few of them, you're not quite sure about some of the other reports that you've done yet, you want to look at those again or something like that, you can do that. But then you just select the reports that you want to upload and go from there. Or if you know that you have a few that you want to delete, maybe you put in 2 of them, something like that. To delete the ones that you don't want to upload, you select to delete, and then you select those and then delete them, right? But once you've uploaded them, let's go. I'm not going to upload this just so it doesn't confuse anybody into thinking there's alligator weed in my office. Once you've uploaded them, you can hit clear uploaded, and it's going to clear your queue out, no longer show you the ones right here that you've uploaded. and then you're free to move on to the next ones, right? Going back to the settings really quickly, just to rehash some of these things that we just talked about after looking at our reporting capabilities through the app. That bar right there that allows you to save photos to camera roll, that's where you've taken pictures using the EDDMapS app and you want those pictures to also be saved to your phone for future reference. You can click that. The auto upload for reports is what's going to automatically upload those reports as you fill them out. But I do a lot of reporting from the field, and I'd like to not run my phone battery down trying to report species when I have no cell signal. So I just wait until at the end of the day when I'm back and have good cell reception or Wi-Fi and submit all those reports at once. And so another thing that we ran into was it's pretty easy to submit all those or to build all those species reports, put them in your queue, and then forget to upload them at the end of the day. So one thing that we've implemented is a reminder. So it's a notification on your phone. After a period of time, it's going to say, hey, remember, you've got all these reports waiting in your queue. Maybe you should upload those or look at those and decide if you want to keep them or not, because it's pretty easy to forget those things once you're there. So that's basically it for the EDDMapS app. It should be pretty simple, I hope. Hopefully that wasn't too terribly difficult. Let's look at the questions and see. Yes, okay, that's a really good question. So the species list and field guide section, you can sort by common name or scientific name. Well, you used to be able to search by scientific name in the field guide section, but for a new sighting to add a species, if I just wanted to add all plants, let's see. Well, maybe that's something that's only available for the Android apps now, but it used to be you could search by common or scientific name, and we'll see if we can add that back and get that fixed. So if you do have an Android, it might still be there and it might, or it might not, but we should make sure to get that back in there because that's a really good point for searching by a common name or a scientific name for sure. As far as embedding EDDMapS into an ArcGIS story map, I don't have an answer for that. That's probably something that Chuck or Rebecca are going to be able to answer better than I could. And yes, the field guide should be available even when working without cell service.
I think that's great. I think we'll probably move on to Rebecca's presentation now, but Triston, if you are able to type any answers to questions in the meantime would be fabulous. I know there's a few more coming in after people have watched your presentation. So we're going to welcome back Rebecca Wallace now to talk about EDDMapS on the desktop.
Yeah,